they shortchanged, if you like, in getting, I mean, as in Christian politicians, in getting their God, their faith, their belief to influence the outcomes in their politics? Are Christians limited? Are they unable to do that? Is that something that is not part of God's plan? So if you're a Christian and you become a politician, it's not part of God's plan. Just win souls, go to church. But for you to win a seat, for you to win an election, for you to win a governor race, those are not, God is not interested. Is that the situation?
You know, the thing is, it's first of all to be able to understand what's God's purpose for the church, what's God's purpose for the earth. The purpose of God for the earth is to have all men to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth, basically. And then, of course, the will of God is carried out on the earth through the church. Jesus said, I will build my church. So he's built his church, and he's carrying out his purpose through the church today. So the prophet, the apostle, the evangelist, the pastor, and the teacher are in the local church. The mission is to equip the saints to do the work of ministry so the body of Christ can be edified. Now, when it comes to elections or other issues like that it revolves within the society, what God does is God gives man the freedom to choose. He made every human being a free moral agent. That means the moment God did that, he exonerated himself from man's choices and the outcome of man's choices. So he allows you to make your choices.
In individual lives.
Both individual lives and corporate lives.
Yeah.
Yes, he allows us to make our choices. And he doesn't get involved. God does not force himself on people, except the people call him into it. For example.
But that's what I'm coming to.
Yes,
Can we call him into it?
Yes, I'm coming there too.
Yeah.
God said to the children of Israel, I want to make you a kingdom of priests and kings. And Israel said, God, we don't want you to rule over us. And God said to Samuel, if they have rejected me, allow them to have what they want. That was the beginning of human government in the book of Samuel. So God allowed people to determine who they wanted. But then Samuel said to the children of Israel, but this is the kind of person you guys must select. Someone who will not turn your daughters into cooks, turn your sons into servants. You must look for somebody. There were criteria given in the book of Samuel. But you ultimately will make the choice. You ultimately will live with the outcome of your choice. So society evolved, and we have today what we call democracy. The democracy is a government of the people, for the people, by the people. God doesn't get involved in all of that. God's involvement is only if we ask him to intervene. And even if we do, the only thing God will do is to help us make the choice and get among the candidates who the possible best will be among them. That's the best.
What does it mean to say God rules in the affairs of men?
It simply means God has set systems in which men will rule themselves.
No, say that again. God rules in the affairs of men
means that God has set systems.
How do you get that? How do you convince us that that's the meaning?
That's exactly what it means. Go check the pretext and the post-text.
What's that? Pretext, protest, Latin, Hebrew.
Those are rules.
No, it says God rules in the affairs of men.
Those are rules. That's the book of Daniel.
And you say that
God has set the system. It's just like children are heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. What it means is that God has set the system of reproduction, where when a husband and a wife gets married, the reward for their coming together to marry is that they produce children.
Yes, so God rules in the affairs of men.
Means God has allowed man to operate a system politically that, allows men to rule over men.
Then how does God rule in that? When God is setting up the system so that man can rule, how is he ruling in it?
If God didn't give man the freedom to have that, man wouldn't be able to operate that system.
But it means God is the author of the system.
That's what it means.
But that means
God is not involved in the running.
But who does he want to run?
Man runs.
Which man?
Whichever man, the system, the society, whatever the society decides, whether it is democracy or whatever form of government, man will have to ultimately run the system that man allows to govern.
Okay, so Christians shouldn't pray for anybody to win election.
No, you don't pray for anybody to win election. Just make sure you do your campaign well. Make sure you have the right candidate. Make sure you support a candidate that agrees with your conscience, and vote for the person and wish for the best.
Footballers should not pray for God's intervention.
No.
To win a match.
No, just develop your skills. You have the expertise you need. Okay. Go and play.
People who work in a company, say a Coca-Cola company, just come to Oyo. Should they pray that Coca-Cola company will become the biggest Coca-Cola company in Nigeria?
Well, they should wish it well. wish it well.
Should they have prayer, direct prayer for that?
Well,
that we are just setting up a company, there are 11 of us, that the intervention of God comes so that we will be the biggest Coca-Cola branch company in West Africa, setting up here in 2024, even though we are new. Can they focus on a prayer like that?
It's a good thing to wish the Coca-Cola company. But if the Coca-Cola company doesn't do their due diligence...
No, but can they legitimately pray for that and reasonably expect that prayer to be answered?
Well, even if they don't pray that prayer, if they do the right thing, the company is going to do well.
But in politics, you are competing. In football, you are competing.
In business,
both people can do the right thing.
Exactly.
There is a certain liner of luck, fortune, whatever you call it, that takes in favor of one against another.
That's where,
and people want to believe that this is where you go to God.
No, that's where due diligence, that's where expertise comes in.
Experts.
Yes.
No, you can. Expertise can be equalized.
Child of God, I'm a child of God.
Yeah, expertise can equalize.
You are a child of God. I'm a child of God. We're praying for political office.
Different political office.
God answers both of us.
So who wins? Because you are praying for one candidate, I'm praying for the opposite candidate.
Whoever is able to successfully sell and market himself to the people that will vote him will be the person to win.
Okay, so once you pray for your candidate, I pray for my candidate, God then sits back.
God just says, all right, you guys have it the way you want it.
Does God know, though, who is going to win?
He knows the end from the beginning.
So he knows who's going to win?
He does.
Can he share that with man?
Well, again, like I said, what is God's mission on the earth? God's mission on the earth is to have all men to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth. That doesn't
so
mean
God knows who is going to win the election?
Yes.
Can he share that with me?
Yes, by his spirit, he can reveal to you that.
So if he reveals to me, can I come on television and say, hey?
No, he didn't reveal it for you to announce. It's just like a father and son were chatting and I say, hey,
so if he reveals to me that this one is going to win, and I feel that I don't want this one to win, can I change it? If he revealed to me that, hey, Paul,
you're not going to change it,
this election is going to be won by Donald Trump, I say, yeah,
no. You're not going to change it because the foreknowledge of God does not translate into his predestination.
What does that mean?
That God foreknew something doesn't mean he's the one that instigated it.
I get that. But does it mean he can alter it? Can he amend it?
He won't alter it because he's not involved in the choice making. Man ultimately has to make that choice.
So the conversations he used to have with Abraham, where he was inviting Abraham to make determinations with him, and where he was suggesting to Abraham that we can change this if you can do this and that. Does he still have those conversations with men?
Again, those conversations were as it regards salvation.
So he does. So now that salvation has come, he doesn't have conversations with men anymore.
He still does, because all men are not saved. So he converses with us to talk to us about what we can do to get more people saved.
So God knows the end from the beginning. So he knows that Real Madrid will beat Barcelona. I am Barcelona. So he will tell me that, Chief, you're going to lose this game. And I can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Are you really
Because
serious?
it's dependent on you make the choice.
No, this is football. He knows the outcome, so he's telling me.
He doesn't get involved with the choices.
But he also knows why we didn't win.
Well, he does, because he's all-knowing.
Yeah, so now that he knows why we didn't win, he can tell me that, look, you guys, you didn't win. If you continue to play like this and to train like this, you're not going to win. This guy shouldn't play. Can he pour all that? Can the Holy Spirit pour all that information to me as the owner of Barcelona, who's a child of God?
Yes, the Holy
so I
Spirit
called the coach and said,
you...
listen, God spoke to me last night. Number 7 cannot play
the
tomorrow.
Holy Spirit can give you that.
And that can change and we win.
The Holy Spirit can give you that
and it can change and we win.
But you will have to make the choice to accept it and apply it.
I get all that. Assuming we accept it, it can change and we can win because God knows everything.
Well, again, it depends. Like I said, it depends, because football is not played by one person. It's a teamwork. You can have one good player and the rest can ruin his
I'm talking about God's power to change. He knows it.
See, God's
can
power,
he change it?
God's power is within the framework of salvation. Romans 1:16. The gospel is the power of God.
I get it.
Unto
God's
salvation.
desire and ability to change outcomes for his people, Christians, when those outcomes are not favorable for the Christian, and he goes to God with prayer upon a revelation from the Spirit that the outcome is this and it may not be palatable to you. Can the Christian go back and say, hey, we have to do 30
Well,
days?
sure, God can give you an idea and tell you, look, the way you're going is not going to work. You have to do something about it. Then now it depends on how you comply with what God said and how
that's where the pastors come in and talk about He didn't win because he didn't comply.
No, the pastors.
Because they say, God told me
the pastors
that this person is going to win. I asked God, how are they going to win? He said, they are going to win because they are going to win in everywhere on the island. And the other party is winning everywhere on the mainland. They are not doing their campaign well in the mainland. Prophet says God told him that. He goes to the country and says, Chief, how well are you doing in the mainland? He says, oh, our organizer in the mainland is not well. He said, hey, that's what the Holy Spirit told me yesterday. If you don't get the mainland working, you're going to lose this election. But if you get the mainland working, you will win. God has told me.
Let me paint a picture for you that will make this very easy. God said to Adam, tree of life, tree of death, choose life, that it may be well. He went quiet.
Who went quiet?
God.
After he gave those choices to Adam.
Adam is making the choice for death. God says nothing. God does not say anything. After Adam has died, God said, Adam, where art thou? So God does not interfere with the process. He allows you to run your process.
No, I'm not talking about that, doctor.
Now, but
I'm not talking about an Adam that God has given him a choice.
No,
I'm talking about a David
you,
who is coming to God that said, God, you need to intervene in this for me.
Yes. So I'm giving you a Bible pattern of how God gets involved with affairs, beginning from the fundamental one, which is God, sin, and man. So if in a fundamental, serious issue that has to do with the salvation of man, God only said to man, look at this, look at that, make this choice, and God goes quiet and says nothing through the process until man has finished making his choice, then God says, where art thou? That's the way God functions. So when it comes to other issues of men's lives, God will allow you look at the whole process and he will give you some wisdom. Ultimately, you make the choice and he does not interfere. When the outcome comes, you will know whether what you did was right or wrong.
No, I'm talking about somebody who is coming to God and says that, tell me the choice. I am submitting it to you, O Lord. What shall I do in this situation? Tell me what to do. That's the person I'm talking about.
Well, again,
I'm talking about a person who feels that he wants to make a choice. Somebody who says, God, I'm here. I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do.
Again, that's where the leading of the Spirit comes.
Yes.
They that are led by the Spirit of God. And there are times the Spirit of God will actually lead a man. But again, remember, the Spirit of God does not do the job for you. He just gives you leadings. He gives you perceptions.
We get that. So,
and when it has to do with human systems, you alone don't determine the outcome of the system.
I think you've answered the question. Right. So a prophet can say, God told me that Olusegun Obasanjo was going to win, and it will be true.
Oh yeah, it's possible.
And Olusegun Obasanjo doesn't win, but it is still true that God told the prophet that Olusegun was going to win.
Well, again, it depends if God asked the prophet to announce it, or he just gave it for his personal information.
Oh, he may not have announced it to a large audience, but he might have told some people.
Well, again, you know, when it has to do with God, we must always come back to God's primary focus.
I interviewed a pastor here
Salvation.
About politics. And he said some things. Some things he didn't say, he wrote it down on that table. One of the things he wrote down on the table was that during the balloting for places, a certain candidate will pick a certain ballot. It hadn't happened yet. It was 3 weeks, 4 weeks before the thing. Yes. I gave him a grand interview. He spoke about who win the election. He spoke about other things. He said, this one I can say, but the other things God told me I can't say. Bring a paper, let me write it for just you. And he did. And they happened. And I called him and I said that, should I tell the people? He said, no, don't. It's for you.
That's what I'm saying.
But he said certain things. He actually said who is going to win the election. He said that God has told him this is going to win. It's not going to change. He said that. Yes. Then he said other things. The other things he didn't say it. He said, write it down. This way. In fact, he took my pen and said, let me write it down for you. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. All these things are related to the election, but I can't say these ones.
But again, remember, revelation is not exclusive to God.
To God. That's important.
Yes.
That's very important.
Sorcery is there.
So sorcery can show him.
Sorcery is there. Witchcraft is there.
And they can see what will happen. And they can see the truth.
Stargazers are there.
And they can see it.
They can see it.
That this will happen.
Yes. So people don't get wowed.
So they can also communicate it to man.
Yep. People don't get wowed by the fact that somebody said something and it came to pass. No. They've got to check a lot of factors and indices from God's word to be able to know if this knowledge is coming from God or not.
Tonight, everyone knows, is going to be the matter of Parliament and the majority, the minority eventually settled. 23 days more to go for a big election in Ghana. It will be the election that ushers in the 9th Parliament, and it will be the 9th time that we are voting since 1992. It will be a sustained democratic process that has taken us more than 3 decades, and we are still on it. Everyone expects that there will be peace on December 7th and the days thereafter, irrespective of the outcome of the presidential and parliamentary elections. Tonight, we have a lot for you in terms of what the Supreme Court said, and to break it down for all of us to associate and understand in a manner that we often do on Good Evening Ghana. 7 justices of the Supreme Court looked at the matter of Parliament and to make a determination whether when 4 MPs who have indicated by filing processes at the Electoral Commission to be members of Parliament for tickets of parties other than those parties that they were associated with for the 2020 election. Some of them also were independent candidates who are now seeking to join political parties. According to a provision of the 1992 Constitution, it says that when this matter happens, then those MPs would have to automatically vacate their seats. A question that came around the country, in Parliament, out of Parliament, at the courts, in the offices, on the radio and television, was whether an action taken for a future Parliament should affect this Parliament, and whether or not the word used Parliament in the Constitution refers to one Parliament or refers to the eternal Parliament. All of these matters were discussed across the country. It was a writ that was filed by the majority leader when the Speaker of Parliament announced to Parliament that as far as he was concerned, those 4 MPs have duly vacated their seats. It became more controversial because the effect of that was going to change the dynamics of the leadership of Parliament. Among the 4 MPs were 3 of them affected on the MPP side and 1 affected on the NDC side. Given the distribution of seats between the NDC and the MPP to be a +1 for the MPP, this was certainly going to change the dynamics. In fact, a broad hint had been given over this matter by Idrisu Haruna, the former minority leader, member of Parliament for Tamale South for the NDC, during his campaign launch back home in Tamale, where he told the mammoth crowd that by the next sitting of Parliament, the distribution of seats would have changed in favor of the National Democratic Congress. Majority Leader Afenyo Makin took a personal interest in the matter, as it turned out to be, because of course he is the leader of the majority. He went to court to file the writ. The Speaker was served and there was quite a bit of confusion. This writ in the Supreme Court has occasioned a rare press conference from the Speaker of Parliament, who in the press conference has even described the Attorney General as a very, very young friend of his, indicating in the press conference that when the Attorney General came to Parliament to perform his national service, he, Mr. Speaker, was already a leader in the House. It suggests that the matter has become very, very important. Former President John Agyekum Kufuor had weighed in on it in an interview with Obi of Asempa on Ekosi saying, where the former president, siding with the NPP, suggested that the leader of Parliament, the Speaker, should indeed conduct the matter with significant candor. The former Supreme Court Justice Atuguba, who was the president of the court during the election petition 1 in 2013, has also found occasion to speak about this. In an interview he granted to TV3, His Lordship Justice Atuguba said that Parliament is bound by the decision of the Supreme Court. He said also that if Parliament does not obey the decision of the Supreme Court, there are provisions and processes within laws and the Constitution that may kick in, including the very dreaded high crime allegation against the Speaker or whoever was supposed to take the action to bind Parliament to perform the consequential orders given by the Supreme Court. Those orders are that the 4 MPs remain members of Parliament, and that would mean that the MPP will remain the majority group with 138. Parliament is yet to convene since the decision of the court. Tonight, we'll go on the touch screen and show you the details about the decision of the court. This is Good Evening Ghana. Welcome to the show. Now, there's a few minutes to go to 10 o'clock, isn't it? There's a young lady whose video we had used on Tuesday. This young lady was speaking about politics. And in the video, she was responding to something that President John Dramani Mahama said. We all know about the 5 questions that President Mahama has posed to Dr. Bawumia And we also know about the 50 questions that Dr. Baumia has also posed to President Mahama. We have argued here on the program that it's better for the two presidential aspirants to have a debate, and then we will see whose questions have been answered better. We know that the NDC had said there will be no debate. President Mahama said that he will not do a debate. If he were to change his mind, we still have one grand last opportunity to see the two candidates face off before we go into the polls on December 7th. So this lady took upon herself to answer the questions that President Mahama had asked. We had put it out here on television, and she then put up a second video complaining and feeling bad that she watches Good Evening Ghana regularly. It was only on Tuesday that she didn't watch, and everybody was calling her that she had been on television. So in her honor, I'm going to show the video that she put out today. We don't know her name because she doesn't, when you see the video, it doesn't come with her name. She's called Belkisu. Okay. So listen to Belkisu speaking this morning, if that's her name, about the program and about her video.
This particular program, Good Evening Ghana, with Mr. Parliamentary. A program mita monitor pound. A political program money DH pam me a program mita monitor. And rankwa me dan temno. And I'm me video abetuso. My response to JM on the 5 questions now was he will be Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia. I'm die. Your mom frame, your mom will send me messages and send me links. My mother. A dear chin, you told me, and son of me baby sons you. I'm saying for you not tell me. I feel that me be sons you. Eh? Ashimi. I just wanted to call my daddy and my parents say, I'm going to show me what TV, so I'm going to show me what TV, so cry. I dream. But I'm Zanya Bibi on why. But some of papa me with TV, so I miss them. Miss them why? Miss them why? Miss them. I beg you, eh? Oh. I'm so glad. Yes, this is the beauty of democracy. This is the beauty of politics. Once again, I am Kisu, and that's on period.
I'm already receiving text messages that play by Kisu's video again. Right now, play it again. All right. Those who caught it in the middle, the story is that we had a video of her, which we're going to show you again today. And then she said she dozed off that Tuesday night. She's a regular viewer of the show, but she dozed off on Tuesday night. And so she wanted to see herself being profiled by Good Evening Ghana. But here is Belkisu's statement again.
Munim say this particular program, Good Evening Ghana, with Mr. Parliamentary. A program mita monitor pound. A political program money DH pam me a program mita monitor. And rankwa me dan temno. And I'm me video abetuso. My response to JM on the 5 questions now was he will be Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia. I'm die. Your mom will frame, your mom will send me messages and send me links. My mother. A dear chin, you told me, and son of me baby sons you. I'm saying for you not tell me. I feel that me be sons you. Eh? Ashimi. I just wanted to call my daddy and my parents say, I'm going to show me what TV, so I'm going to show me what TV, so cry. I dream. But I'm Zanya Bibi on why. But some of papa me with TV, so I miss them. Miss them why? Miss them why? Miss them. I beg you, eh? Oh. I'm so glad. Yes, this is the beauty of democracy. This is the beauty of politics. Once again, I am Kisu, and that's on period.
Very, very interesting. That is Kisu, whose video we will now show again. So on Tuesday, we just put the questions to President Mohammed's video together with her responses. This is the video that we put. It's already on social media. Some of you have seen it, but I'll bring it back. Remember, it's still 23 days more to go for the December 7th election. I have been talking to you about the presidential debate, haven't I? John Mahama started with the debate, and he said that he has 5 questions for Dr. Bawumia. Dr. Bawumia responded with 50 questions, didn't he? He did. And I said here that, look, this thing about I have questions for you or you have questions for me, it's not healthy. Let's sit together at the debate. Let's do the debate. John Mahama has said he will not do the debate because Dr. Bawumia is not his level. I'm not sure whether debate is done because somebody is somebody's level. Debate is done because you're presenting yourself for president and you are telling the people that I'm ready for the job. I'm happy to debate anybody about my intentions, about my past, about my present, and about the capacity that I have to deliver to the Ghanaian people a healthy economy, peace, security, proper education, health, etc., etc. Everything that a third world country needs, I, as president, have the capacity to deliver. That's the purpose of the debate. You're coming to tell people that I'm ready for anything. But he says he's not going to do the debate. So I'm just saying that this question that he says Dr. Bawumia should answer, and Dr. Bawumia says that he should answer. The two of them should come together. Let's deal with it, and then we sort it out. I think that's much better. But there's a young lady who has answers for the questions that Dr. Bawumia, that John Mahama asked Dr. Bawumia. Have a look at it.
Former President John Dramani Mahama raised some concerns because I don't see them to be questions, but rather concerns. And the first one is, why is the CD to dollar rate 17 cedis now? The question should be, why was the CD to dollar rate 4 Ghana cedis, but then you couldn't provide common chalk for our schools to teach our students, for our teachers to teach our students? Why was the CD to dollar rate 4 Ghana cedis, but you couldn't continue with the existing nursing training and teacher training college allowances that was already there before you came? Why? Why couldn't you continue with it with the 4 Ghana cedis dollar to CD rate? Why was your regime? Why were we having unemployed association in the country when the CD to dollar rate 4 Ghana cedis? Why were all these things there? Why the CD to dollar rate was 4 Ghana cedis, but you said you cannot implement free senior high school, and that it wasn't even possible for anybody at all on this earth to implement free senior high school in Ghana? Why? Why couldn't you do all this when the CD to dollar rate was 4? Why were you not able to pay government workers their salary when the dollar to CD was 4 Ghana cedis? Why? Because running a country successfully does not solely depends on the CD to dollar rate, but rather good governance, good policies, good implementations of policies. These are what matters, and these are what you lack, and these are the reason why we will never vote for you again. Today, the CD to dollar rate is 17 cedis, but we don't even use chalk in our schools. We use marker pens in our schools and marker boards. Meanwhile, you couldn't even provide chalk when it was 4 cedis. Today, we have restored the nursing training and the teacher training college allowances you cancel. Meanwhile, the CD to dollar rate is 17 cedis. Today, the MPP government has implemented free senior high school successfully. Meanwhile, the CD to dollar rate is 17 cedis. Come back again. We are wise now. We, the youth of Ghana, are wise now. No one will go back. DMB is winning these elections, hands down.
I don't know what to say. I have no idea. I don't know how to comment on it. You see, the youth of Ghana are getting very, very, very wise. Because they're watching television, you see, viewers. They're watching television. They are seeing what's happening in other countries. And they are thinking that, why can't this happen in Ghana? This can happen in Ghana. So they are asking critical questions. The results of the election is going to be very revealing. And we're going to use that to check whether the youth of Ghana were asking certain questions or they were not asking certain questions. Eventually, the election will tilt in favor of the youth votes. Whoever gets majority of the youth votes will be elected president. So we are watching to see how the youth are thinking. Are they sinking in with Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia on the left, or are they building up a sankofa for John Dramani Mahama on the right? So that was the matter. That's how That's how it turned out and turned up. Okay, so Berkisu, we've done justice to you. We think that you're a very sensible young woman, and you know what your choice is, and hopefully you'll get some of your friends to think along those lines. But this election is going to be about the youth. With 23 days to go, let's see what determination they make. But whatever it is, let's remember that we are one Ghana, we are one people, we are one flag, red, yellow, and green. We are not NPP na and NDC na. We are Ghana. Together, let's make it happen. We've done it before, we'll do it again. Here is the national anthem, one of the best renditions of it by Ola Williams on a political occasion. Listen to this.
I will uphold the sovereignty, the integrity of Ghana.
And help us to resist oppressors' rule with all our will and might forevermore. And help us to resist oppressors' rule with all our will and might forevermore.
That was Ola Williams rendering the national anthem. Okay, so we already gave you the Supreme Court matter. Tonight, our work is to get here on the touchscreen and make it very simple for everyone to understand. So the issue is that there's a constitutional provision that when people change the way in which they came to Parliament, so you go to Parliament, either you're an independent candidate or you represent a political party. So if you go to Parliament as an independent candidate, but then you get enticed by a political party's policy and you want to join, you are free to join. And if you go to Parliament as a member of a party, but you're not happy with what the party is doing and you want to become independent, you are free to do that. Now, there's a provision in the Constitution that says that when a person vacates his seats and seeks to remain in Parliament on the same party ticket, that person cannot do so. He has to vacate his seat, step out of Parliament, and then come back to Parliament. Okay. Now, we know that within the context of Parliament, read in the law, so far we have had 8 parliaments in Ghana. When a term of Parliament ends, even bills that have not yet been passed by that Parliament, they end. The Constitution recognizes a clear division between one Parliament and the other. The life of a Parliament comes to an end. So, in January 2025, you would hear on the first day of Parliament, on the 9th of the 6th January, after the swearing in, they will say it's the first meeting of the first session of the 9th Parliament of the 4th Republic. They will say it's the first meeting of the first session of the 9th Parliament of the 4th Republic. A year later, they will say that is the second session. They will say it's the first meeting of the second session of the 9th Parliament of the 4th Republic. So Parliaments are understood as Parliament 1, because whatever Parliament 1 does, Parliament 2 can actually change it. Whatever Parliament 2 does, Parliament 3 can actually change it. So Parliament, and each Parliament elects a new speaker. So that in interpreting the word Parliament in the Constitution, should we think of Parliament as the Parliament throughout the life of the Constitution, or should we think of Parliament as in changes, as in different Parliaments? And that's the matter that really was before the Supreme Court. What should be the interpretation of Parliament? Because the word said remain in Parliament, and tonight we're going to see that some of the judges spent time to explain what the word remain in there means. We were convinced, as far as our small research group here is concerned, that the word remain is referring to one Parliament in terms of the beginning and the end of a Parliament's life. Okay, so let's understand what happened. 7 judges looked at it, and 2 of them felt that there's a matter of jurisdiction. That's the big other question. One question is the definition of Parliament in the context, and the other one is a matter of jurisdiction. Jurisdiction means that under the law, under the Constitution, every court is given the kind of cases that they can hear, the kind of cases that they are allowed to hear. And you know that from the circuit court going upwards, each court is an appellate court. Each court has 2 jurisdictions. Its original jurisdiction and its appellate jurisdiction. The appellate jurisdiction means that a lower court has heard the matter, one party is not happy with the verdict and goes higher to appeal against the decision. So the second court, when it's listening to it, is exercising its appellate jurisdiction. Now, the Supreme Court is the biggest appeal court because all matters will travel and end at the Supreme Court. But they also do have original and exclusive jurisdiction. They have jurisdiction that the Constitution has given to only them. That's the exclusive one. And the original jurisdiction means that you go there first. So the Supreme Court has original and exclusive jurisdiction in matters of constitutional interpretation, where any Ghanaian, any authority, any minister or anybody feels that a certain provision in the Constitution should apply this way, but another person thinks the provision should apply this way, or where he has applied a provision in a certain way and people are unhappy with it, the Constitution says that the first place that you go to is the Supreme Court. That's the original jurisdiction. The exclusive jurisdiction means that only the Supreme Court can look at it. So it means that in constitutional interpretation, the first and only place that you go to is the Supreme Court. The first and only. That is what it means by original and exclusive jurisdiction. Original means that's the first place you go. Exclusive means only them. So the first and the only place you go for an interpretation of the Constitution is the Supreme Court. When you are going to the Supreme Court, it doesn't mean somebody has not interpreted it already. Often, it means somebody has interpreted it already and you disagree with the person and you go to the Supreme Court. So with that background, let's now look at what happened. So this is the list of the judges of the court who heard the matter. Avril Lovelace Johnson, she dissented on the matter of jurisdiction. Isifumoro Tanko also dissented on the matter of jurisdiction. Gertrude Tokonu, Maria Mawusu, Samuel Kwame Adibo Asedu, Ernest Yao Jehu, and Yao Dakung Asare, all five of them decided that the court had jurisdiction to hear the matter and proceeded to indicate that the 4 members of parliament were properly members of parliament as far as the 8th parliament was concerned, irrespective of what they had filed at the Electoral Commission with their intention to change their political parties in the next election. Now, the question has been raised that this interpretation could by and large be absurd, because it means that where a person is an MPP member and he has filed as an independent candidate, he is going into his constituency to campaign as an independent candidate. Therefore, he's campaigning against the MPP. But when it comes to parliament, he has to vote with the MPP. Even when he comes to parliament, for those who make that argument, they have to remember that even when it comes to parliament and there's a secret ballot, he can vote against the MPP. That possibility exists within the context of parliament. That MPP member, when it comes to secret voting, he can vote against the MPP position. Is that not the reason why Alban Bagbin is speaker? Yes, that's the reason why Alban Bagbin is speaker. That some members of parliament voted against their party whip. That is why Bagbin is speaker. So this argument that it is ridiculous that they are members of MPP in parliament and then they go out as independent candidates and ahead of the campaign for the next 23 days they campaign against the MPP. Yeah, that sounds ridiculous, but it's not within the context of parliamentary practice, because members of parliament sitting in parliament on secret ballot, and that's why the Constitution allows a secret ballot, because that members of parliament are supposed to have a certain independent thinking, whatever it is. They are supposed to have the freedom and the window to go against the party whip in parliament. That's the reason why that process of secret ballot is allowed. So members of parliament can do independent. The reason why this interpretation is important, we think, is that it is about the constituents. They have elected somebody to represent them. You cannot cut short their representation in parliament. It's about the constituents. The sovereignty is in the people. Sovereignty lies in the people. And the constituents have elected somebody for 4 years. The fact that a person has made a decision for the future should not deny those constituents of representation in parliament. For the last 4 years, Franklin Kujo and Kweku Azar have been talking about SAL. How do you look at SAL, the context of SAL, and then say that SAL has been undermined by the Electoral Commission and by the court and etc., and then look at this and say that those 4 constituencies should be denied of their members of parliament, should be denied of parliamentary representation over the next few months before the end of the parliament's term in January. I'm not sure how that works. But anyway, this is the quorum, as they say, 7 of them. On the issue of jurisdiction, this is how it goes. The majority opinion. This is Dako Asare speaking. He says, but more important is the need to emphasize that the dispute in issue arises solely from what's the proper interpretation and application of Article 97(1)(9)(h) is to the fate of the affected MPs filing nominations to contest the next elections as independent or on tickets of political parties that they do not currently represent. The suit essentially hinges on a pure question of law, specifically the proper construction of Article 97(1)(g) and (h) to establish the legal threshold for triggering its provision, without delving into the factual disputes regarding seat vacation in Parliament, which properly lies within the High Court's purview under Article 99 of the Constitution. Accordingly, to the extent that the exclusive preserve to settle a matter. Okay, let's try and understand what the judge is saying. So he's saying that the whole issue hinges on Article 97. At which point do you trigger the process? At which point do you trigger the process? And then he's recognizing that Article 99 directs that this matter about whether a seat is vacant or not is truly the preserve of the High Court. He recognizes that. Then he continues by saying that to the extent that the exclusive preserve to settle a matter of interpretation under Article 2.1 and Article 130 and 130(1) and 2 lies within the Supreme Court, it is incumbent on this court to exercise jurisdiction and resolve the interpretation for the application of the High Court. I think that's very erudite, very, very interesting. So he's saying that he's making the argument very, very strongly. And the argument here is it the High Court's decision to make or is the Supreme Court's decision to make in terms of whether a seat is vacant or not? Now, everyone recognizes, and it's very straightforward language in Article 99, that the High Court has been given jurisdiction to declare whether a seat is vacant or not. It's been given an exclusive jurisdiction to declare whether a seat is vacant or not. The issue here is, does the processes in Article 97, have those processes in Article 97 accrued right now? And that is a matter of interpretation. And that's what he's saying here, that when it comes to the matter of interpretation, the Supreme Court have the preserve in Article 2.1 and 130(1) and 2 to deliver it. So High Court has power to declare whether a seat has become vacant or not. The case of if you file nomination at the Supreme Court, at the Electoral Commission, to contest the elections on the ticket of a different party in the next election, have you offended Article 97, which therefore requires that your seat is vacant? This is the matter of interpretation according to Justice Darko Asare. And he says that is why the Supreme Court has exclusive jurisdiction over this matter. That was his talk on jurisdiction. Let's see what the minority opinion is. The minority opinion, one of them carried by Lovelace Johnson, is as follows. She says, the fact that this court is clothed with exclusive jurisdiction under Article 130 of the Constitution, subject to that given the High Court under Article 33, to deal with all matters relating to the enforcement and interpretation of the Constitution, and any allegation that an enactment was made in excess of the powers of Parliament or any authority or person by law or under the Constitution, which jurisdiction in any case can be exercised upon a reference from the High Court in appropriate circumstances. Okay, the brackets is confusing the reading, so let me start again. The fact that this court is clothed with exclusive jurisdiction under Article 130 of the Constitution to deal with all matters relating to the enforcement and interpretation of the Constitution, and any other allegations that an enactment was made in excess of powers of Parliament or any authority or person by law under this Constitution, does not mean that the clear provisions of Article 99, which provides the forum for hearing and determining the core issues in this matter, can be ignored. Okay, so she is saying that the fact that the Supreme Court has exclusive jurisdiction to deal with matters of interpretation of all kinds and enforcement of the Constitution of all kinds, it doesn't mean that the provisions in Article 99, which says that the High Court shall have power to declare whether a seat is vacant, that provision should be undermined. She continues. She says, I am satisfied that the High Court being the proper forum for this matter, but the plaintiff having filed his writ in the Supreme Court, the jurisdiction of this court has not been properly invoked. I therefore see no need to go into the merits or otherwise of the other issues raised in the memorandum of issues. The action is accordingly dismissed. That's Justice Lovelace Johnson. she dismisses the action on the basis that the forum is wrong and that the forum ought to be the High Court. And here she says that the High Court have exclusive jurisdiction. Justice Darko says that the Supreme Court must give the interpretation of 97 to guide the High Court when it's about to declare a seat vacant or not. Now, those who support the majority opinion are saying that the problem with the minority opinion could be that they're saying that the problem of the minority opinion is the same problem that gives us a culture of delaying cases. And they're saying that if the minority opinion were to win, it will mean that the plaintiff must first go, they've come to the Supreme Court already, they stop the Supreme Court, go to High Court will rule, they will adjourn, somebody will come in and say that let's go back to the Supreme Court for an interpretation of something indirectly related, they will go back to the Supreme Court, come back to the High Court, that's what will happen. And this is why cases delay, that the minority opinion may be that kind of expression that sometimes can delay cases. That's what those who support the majority opinion are saying, that the majority is clearly right. This is a matter of constitutional interpretation. Interpret the Constitution, let's move on. When you interpret the Constitution at the Supreme Court, it affects every other matter below. Okay, now let's come to the argument of remain. And I don't know, there's a lot. We'll just do a little bit and then we'll take some text messages. And then also, all the judges spoke about the Attorney General. And I'll get that for you when we come back from the break. What did they say about the Attorney General? We'll talk about that as well. But now let's deal with remain. So the issue of remain came out. On the issue of the word remain in Article 97, it looked like the whole conversation was turning on the issue of remain. And if you remember, viewers, we had this flyer where we were suspecting that this was going to happen. In the Supreme Court. We put up a flyer the other day, is that not it? Yeah, this is it, where we said that, this was last Tuesday, we said the Supreme Court has decided in a 5-2 majority, perhaps it was all about the word remain in Article 97 of the Constitution, and we said we'll give you the full analysis. So we always suspected when we were putting the research together that this remain is going to be where the argument will turn. The real construct of the word remain in Article 97 is where this argument was going to turn. Let's see what the judges said about this one on the word remain. The central issue, this is Justice Darko Asare again, he says the central issue thus intended to be addressed by Article 97 is not merely declaring the intention to join another party or the intention to become an independent MP in another parliament, but becoming independent or becoming a member of another party while seeking to remain in Parliament during the term for which the MP was elected. This act violates the social contract with the electorate, a contract that spans the full 4-year term, and only the electorate has the authority to alter it. If an MP wishes to change their political status while remaining in Parliament, they must vacate their seat and seek a new mandate from the voters. On the contrary, actions calculated to take effect after the term, like evincing an intention to join a party for a future election, do not interfere with the voters' mandate and do not therefore fall within the contemplation of the law. Very erudite, very, very interesting. So Justice Darko is saying that he's distinguishing the two matters. The age-old crossing carpets, the British parliamentary philosophy of crossing carpets, where because they sit across each other, and we used to do it in Ghana in the first parliament and the second parliament, because they sit across each other, you just walk and cross the carpet and then you join these people, so your number is added to theirs. That was happening in the British Parliament, and we didn't want that to happen because we thought that it was an abuse of the mandate, because the mandate is given by the citizens in the constituency knowing that you are a member of the NPP. They gave you the mandate on the strength of the MPP. The MPP constituency organizer worked for you in the constituency. The MPP constituency party worked for you in the constituency. The MPP constituency executives worked for you in the MPP. Same with the NDC. So if out of that you become a member of parliament for the MPP for, say, Lejokuku constituency, and then during the time that they have elected you for 4 years, you go and join the NDC and add to the NDC numbers, the 1992 Constitution is frowning upon that. It's completely frowned upon that because the mandate that they gave you is up to 4 years. Now, he's distinguishing that from an instance where you have told them that I am your MP now, but for the next parliament, I want to go and join the NDC. They said, okay, no problem. You go, we'll elect somebody else. But for the term that they have mandated you to represent the constituency, you have to represent the constituency by attending parliament and bringing them the information. If you're addressing them every 2 weeks to tell them what's happening in parliament, you ought to continue to do that as a fulfillment of the mandate that was given to you, isn't it? So that's what Justice Darko is. I think it's fantastic, yeah? And I'd like to just read the last part again. He says, on the contrary, actions calculated to take effect after the term, like evincing an intention to join a party for a future election, do not interfere with the voters' mandate and do not therefore fall within the contemplation of the law. As I was just reading this, something is coming to my mind about the definition of parliament and the definition of parliament in Article 1, where is it? Article 97. Now, the concern, the argument is that when they say parliament in the constitution, they don't mean the eternal parliament or they mean a session of parliament. When the document says seeks to remain in parliament, it is the remain should take us straight to a certain term. Because a person has to go back to an election after the end of a parliament's term. After the end of parliament's term, parliament gets dissolved, everybody goes back to an election, the speaker is gone, parliament must come back and elect a new speaker. So the constitution cannot discuss parliament in perpetuity within that context. But that's a matter for another day. Anyway, so this is what Justice Darko said about remain, and the majority opinion did not the minority opinion did not say anything about it. He had a lot more to say, but for television time purposes, we might not be able to deal with all that. What he said is in the first instance, is completely correct, and we like it. They also spoke about the Attorney General, but I'd like us to go and take some text messages and come back, and then discuss the points that they made about the Attorney General. After that, I have a cartoon video to show you that's going around on social media. It's very, very interesting. I'll share it with you. Who shall I start with on the text message? Ella. Okay, Ella, what are people saying?
All right, so a lot of people are having a conversation about whether or not they agree with the decision of the Supreme Court. So Mohammed says, good evening, Paul. My name is Mohammed from Tamale. If you weren't educating Ghanaian public, we those who are laymen could never understand and would have quit politics a long time ago. Thank you for always being on top of issues. This one is from Bright. He says, the behavior of the speaker would definitely dwindle the fortunes of the NDC if the leadership of the party refuses to disassociate themselves from the speaker's behavior. This one is from Nixon. He says, Apostle Paul, after carefully reading the judgment of the Supreme Court, I am more than satisfied that the justices were in the minds of the farmers of the 1992 Constitution and foresaw this vacant seat, Bruhaha, coming to play today. Every parliament has a fixed term of starting and ending. A member of any political party or independent candidate and anticipating a future occurrence vis-a-vis their political aspirations in another parliamentary term should never be interpreted as a present-day or term situation. Our democracy will be deepening and flying on higher heights after this judgment. Ghana is ultimately the leader, and we thank the majority caucus for seeking the true and proper interpretation of Article 97, and to enhance our democratic dispensation. It is possible. And lastly, from Ashley, he says, good evening. Ghana has established itself as a TV program extraordinaire thanks to Paul and his team. I want the NDC to tell Ghanaians how the wage bill will be managed under the 24-hour economy. All right, to you, Antoinette.
Right. So on the same story, this is what Master Planner Jr., all the way from Clinton Paul, has to say. Historically, according to him, this 8th Parliament is the first hung parliament where both sides secured 137 to 137 seats with an independent member who decided to do business with the New Patriotic Party, which is the party in power. Now, ironically, Speaker Backben became the Speaker of Parliament by riding on the back of or some members of the New Patriotic Party. He says this left many Ghanaians in a dilemma as to how this parliament will run its activities. Some believe that it will be one of the most impactful parliaments, and others believe it will be the worst. At the moment, where will you place it? He asked. Now, he says that Speaker Backben needs to speak. He claims he is the number 3 in Ghana, so he must speak. He should use his number 3 powers to instruct the minority members to sit as his left-hand side of the House if he believes in the rule of law as a lawyer. And Master Planner continues to say, I would like to write more about this issue, but I know Mr. Paul would do justice to it. Now, Michael Best says the high-end lower courts must learn from this ruling. Today, I hear judges refuse to grant bail to people, indigents, arrested together with some security personnel and sent to court for attempting to remove a certain chief. How can you qualify all these 28 people who experienced mob justice were involved? How can you not grant them bail while they go ahead with the investigation? What if some of them were innocent and mistakenly added? They want those who might be innocent to stay in jail with them. Still on the rule of the Supreme Court, Yao Marvin says, what a rule. Indeed, our justices are too much learned. The ruling resonates common sense and eliminates any diabolism by future speakers. And still on the ruling, Master Planner comes again and he says, according to the 1992 Constitution, the Supreme Court has the power to interpret our laws. I feel so amazed when I hear some people talking about separation of powers. The judiciary, he says, has not interfered in the activities of the executive. They are only exercising their constitutional mandate written by the same legislatures. Let's put our political interests aside and deal with substantive issues. It is about time that the Speaker of Parliament uses the power of number 3 to rather order the minority members to sit on his left side of the House. The Supreme Court has ruled, and as good citizens, we just must obey. The NPP member who voted against the party interest during the voting of the speakership should actually put his hand on his head in shame. That was the beginning of all this drama in Parliament. According to the 1992 Constitution, this is actually right. And lastly, Felix Kweko says, the Supreme Court actually erred big time. Their decisions are alone tantamount to a judicial difference. The Supreme Court has no jurisdiction or authority to stay or make a decision or pronouncement made by another arm of government. That can only be done in the court system. They should have waited and let someone pick up the matter at the High Court that has the jurisdiction over who is a member of Parliament or not, and he quotes Article 99. Then someone can now rush to the Supreme Court and ask of the stay of proceedings by application of Article 130. Also, the matter of jurisdiction asked by the lawyers of the Speaker that the Supreme Court has no jurisdiction yet to listen the matter before them was not addressed properly by Her Ladyship CJ. Over to you, Fatih.
All right, thank you. So this is from Justin Benzema, and he says, the Supreme Court ruling on the interpretation of Article 97, clause 1 says, G and H of the 1990 Constitution is excellent. Kudos to the CG and the entire bench who sat on the matter. Speaker Bagben must put aside his ego, eat the humble pie, and recall the House to complete the unfinished business before the House arrives for the elections. Alhaji Isif Husseini says, what many people don't understand in that a lawyer's argument or opinion outside the court is not the judgment of a judge or court. We all heard lawyer earlier before the judgment was delivered by the Supreme Court. He created an impression out there that there is a way the Supreme Court can reverse the decision of the Speaker of Parliament. Paul, you know the NDC holds the lawyer's legal views above anything aside. Now, Edward Dogbaza says the Supreme Court's interpretation is at variance with the Constitution. Perhaps they are still writing their own Constitution. Aaron Babako says one of the main reasons why Ghana must control inflation is that high inflation can erode the purchasing power of consumers, leading to a decrease in their standard of living. This can be especially harmful for low-income households that are already struggling to make ends. Additionally, high inflation can also lead to a decrease in investment as investors become hesitant to put their money into an economy with unstable price. He comes again to say one of the first measures that the government can implement is to monitor and regulate the price of essential goods. This can be achieved through the implementation of price control and regular monitoring of prices in the market. By ensuring that prices remain stable and affordable, the government can help alleviate the financial burden on consumers during the holiday season. And lastly, coming from Master Planner Jr., complimenting Barakisi. He says, Barakisi is such an amazing lady with high sense of humor, very brilliant and eloquent. She speaks with confidence, facts and figures is her other name. We have the women too. Now back to you.
Okay, those of you know Barakisi, get in touch with her and bring her on the show. Let's have an interview with her here. So if you know Barakisi, contact her, tell her we're looking for her. And Barakisi, just put a message on our Facebook page and our people will see it. And They will respond. Okay, now let's get back to the touch screen and see what the panel said about the Attorney General. And later tonight, I will be. Oh, they want me to take a break. Okay, I'll take a break and I come back to the Attorney General. Later tonight, I'll be getting back to political predictions of 2024 elections. Tonight, we're focused on what must happen in Greater Accra that will look positive for the MPP, and what must happen in Greater Accra that will look positive for the NDC. On election night, when results are coming in and you're focused on Greater Accra, what should you be looking out for to be able to make a reasonable prediction as to which party is picking up the pieces? After the break, we'll get into all that. This is Good Evening Ghana and it's live.
There's nothing worse than your multi-bet missing, but nothing better than having it saved. Bet Saver.
Between 2014 and 2016, finding a job was a monumental struggle for we the youth. Frustration grew so intense that over 10,000 graduates banded together to form the Unemployed Graduate Association of Ghana. When we sought help, the response from then President Mahama was disheartening. He said he wasn't a magician, implying he couldn't create job out of thin air.
There's no magic to jobs.
His Minister of Youth and Sports echoed this sentiment. Just look for the past we must remember, never again.
After so NDC ban, you be bien juman kitten. Say Akuko na opeso share poultry farm ketue bi near Mao Akuko Bono.
Over the past 8 years, the MPP has created over 2.3 million jobs and has promised to create over 4 million new jobs. Baumia means jobs. Baumia for jobs.
Esuro, vote number 1 on the ballot.
Fire Pomudini Agubio, Ghana Funiaji. If you say, ya your local spices, na ya fradia, ya sanko for natural spice.
Me de gumi jollof fumu, name is still a huduma, emanate dance.
Stanley, the barbecue they go on.
Sanko for natural spices, and one you use 100% natural. Said the Epen.
Adolfo, Mamunye huge mistake. Sanko for natural spices. The
FDIG ejedi nkratuyatu.
Who are you? Who are you? Charlie, I'll be you from the future. Who doesn't sleep on that slice of bready poor mattress anymore? Don some slippers, then follow me. It is part of the mattress we did the front there. Yeah? That'll be the mattress where the dead put.
Wait, what are you doing?
Wow! No damage at all. Not only durable, but also super comfortable. Come on, try it.
Nothing day like ash foam. Enjoy full body support and unparalleled comfort for a restful sleep.
Don't forget your keys.
Get the premium sleep experience with mattresses from Ash Foam. Visit any of our showrooms nationwide or at ashfoam.com. Dr. Baumian once said,
teachers are suffering. Teacher trainees are suffering. Nurses are suffering. And nursing trainees are suffering. Patients are suffering. Students are suffering. Traders are suffering. Pensioners are suffering. Drivers are suffering. Contractors are suffering. Civil servants are suffering. And farmers are suffering. Fishermen are suffering. And industries are suffering. Artisans are suffering. And Kayaye are suffering. The disabled are suffering. And men are suffering. Women are suffering. And children and Ghanaians as a whole are suffering.
Vote John Dramani Mahama for president. Trustworthy, honest, and reliable. Vote for change. Choose the umbrella. Vote John Dramani Mahama and the NDC.
One choice, multiple styles. All big, all unique.
Hey, what's up?
How far with your internship?
To be honest, I'm so nervous about starting this new role on Monday.
Oh, please. I know you'll be great at it. You should be worried about what benefits they have. Example, do they have health insurance?
I doubt they will have that for interns. So I'm not shaking. I have NHIS already.
Actually, I'm on a line.
Ina, look at you. What are you going to do in the office when you can just download their app to register for an NHIS membership?
Yes, my people. You heard right. You can now download and register your membership on my NHIS app. No long queues or tedious paperwork. All you need is your Ghana card to register for yourself and for others. Once you register, you get a new digital NHIS card on your phone. My NHIS app gives you access to credentialed health facilities and services across the country. NHIS covers over 95% of disease conditions in Ghana. Access to healthcare just got easier.
Now let me sign up quickly. Please, Seth, I'm starting work next month.
This election is about the character and competency of the two leading candidates. Let's hear what the Speaker of Parliament, Alan Babin, a leading NDC member, has to say about John Mahama.
You know, John Dramani Mahama, in terms of a human being, when you look at him, he can talk very, very well. Okay, but we're talking about leadership. And you know, the basic fundamentals of leadership involves character, competence, and care. I can say with all certainty that the way he performed, he seemed not to have known Ghanaians. He has not been able to diagnose where we got to and where we want to go to. I believe strongly that his style of leadership, particularly the problems he have with taking decisions, and some of the decisions, I should say, many of those decisions were so catastrophic, all contributed to our losing the election. I also think that he hasn't got that mettle, that courage, to push through when things are difficult.
It's like we're losing leadership as a party. The party is poorer, its members are worse off. It's all because of poor leadership.
Let's hear what the former President Kufuor has to say about Dr. Bawumia.
This young man here seems to have these instruments under his belt. Digitalization, geopolitics. He's hallmarked by humility and the temperance requisite for the job of leading a nation in search of a way forward. Ghana has come to a crossroads. It's not the normal, regular politics we want. We want a leadership with a vision, even in the complex world I've talked about. Please, let's all accept him to continue.
True leadership is defined by character, competency, vision, innovation, and a can-do spirit. Vote number 1 on the ballot.
The luckiest.
Star 712 hash.
Luck is everywhere.
8K. Hey, you can get 8K. Get a packing from your Wallahi. Hey, wait.
You can put it on his tab. This is my man.
Good luck. Hey,
Bill Radio. Unia star 712. It's much more phone. I'm on dialing the magic numbers. Star 712. Now welcome to the luckiest. Aha, and I'm with me at home ticket. You can buy for yourself or your loved one.
Mommy, tell mommy who's here.
You're buying for me, right?
Or who else?
Aww.
Let me choose buy tickets for others.
Love you, boo boo.
No, maybe straight to option 4.
Now, you need to buy tickets worth 50 Ghana to qualify. Yes, you can buy random or preferred tickets. I'm choosing random tickets. Listen, if you buy the random ticket, the system chooses a random number for you. But if you buy the preferred, you get to input your own preferred 5 digits. 5.
Baby, give me your 5 numbers.
And how much are we buying?
Babe, look at the body and buy you.
With your body,
So good, miss.
Hey, there, tread cautiously. Now follow the prompts and confirm. Now the luckiest.
The luckiest is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform, not for persons below 18 years. T&Cs apply.
Apomode wonsem yemfen diagro. Enunti nese wonum edebapa nko. Exodus moringa capsules, any Exodus dandelion capsules. Efi Exodus ebusuanum, na ebeboa wapomode. Emu bia wo benya no betimi aboa. Nanso, se wonye tu no a, wo betimi andom abo. Na ebeboa papa. Se wonum Exodus moringa capsules, ni Exodus dandelion capsules. Eboa mamoja di efusani yie. Na afei ebusi wo immune system no na kwatia yarewa ahodo. Minim yie se nipa dodo na nim dia moringa etimi ye. Na dandelion so yenim. Enu nti me nkasa bebre. Enye mma apemfo. Ana abatan a oma enifo. Ana abofra onya emfidumi. Exodus ehwa dance die doso.
Welcome. Please look into the camera for verification. Thank you, John. You are now verified. Please select your preferred candidate. New candidate. Profile being verified. Please choose another. New candidate. Profile not ready. Please choose another. To see development options for this candidate, press yes or cancel. Will cancel free SHS. Will cancel LEAP. Will cancel health insurance. Will bring back Doomsaw. Should I continue? Press yes or cancel. Please choose another. Development options. Will improve free SHS. Free healthcare. Flat rate scheme for importers. Jobs for the youth. Affordable public transport with electric buses. Generally, a great choice. The only choice really. Thank you for voting number 1.
Esuro. Vote number 1 on the ballot.
Agoganaman, within some defrikua, a Jumekuan chain and mammo. Yet the qua mixture by Muji to Mukama, after the Fofraba, qua plus mixture and a qua empty mixture. Qua mixture eboa, amonipiduenya hodeno, na qua plus mixture, into a bow immune system for qua mixture and the qua plus mixture for boa pumude. Afenso, yet the malaria drop at a tree abejaso. They did the qua empty mixture. Qua mixture, qua plus mixture, and the qua empty mixture, and ye mapping for a mamma colano for, and in cola, umundi in fear duminu. She say, why a test? I chese o malaria more want to be a wumujimu, and son a wafa qua empty mixture, upedudu tour. Frequa, a jumekuno, a war 0244 726611 and 059 165 5778. FDA, Aji, a bidding cratui at all.
Settlement Hana, I am the same. Mitwana Mao, Mabaha. Me a list of baby I make over Ghana and my Yinano. Settlement Tia about so say. Mintimin Tamutia at the Samabaha.
2025, you are setting for 2025. Nobody I want. I say and I want. You only Ghana 2025. The secret is open up to me. Let's say it. Listen, Daniel. 2025, you will lead Ghana. Nobody will lead Ghana except you. Let's say it a lot of us.
Munina Muoko Promoti, how I am Media Mamui, Munu Suno, and Idiemu, Mama Maobi and the Tomo Sabre, Nawakasa of Mamusikana Monkoto. Happy Wenso. Kosumi ayako to abano. Umsha ayasai. 12. 12. Na munkai hu se ebo 12 o'clock e wiabo. Se sambo 12 o'clock biema ade echi. Se 12 months ne ba pe afene sisa ekyerɛ sɛ nyankopɔn ɔde nsisaeɛ bi ba enti na wokɔ ballot no so a wobɛkan 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 wobɛwu sɛ ɛyɛ aberanteɛ na wɔ hɔ ɔno pɛ ɛna wɔturu yi nea aka ne nyinaa ɛyɛ nkɔkorafoɔ.
Here's Kwame and Yao. After hours of planning, both have locked in the same perfect multi-bet. Big win for United, over 1.5. And both teams to score in the London Derby. But who could have picked Leicester over City? Or a high-scoring game at the Bridge? There's nothing worse than having your perfect multi-bet missing. But there's nothing better than having it saved. Bet saver, win, even if your bet misses.
Fire pomudi ni agubi Ghana fueni aje efi say ya your local spices na ya frafra dia ya sankofa natural spice
me de go me jollof mu ni me si wa hodoma e ma ne dance
Stanley the barbecue the go on
sankofa natural spices and one you use 100% natural said the yepe no
adofo mamunye huge mistake sankofa natural spices
Dr. Baumian once said,
But if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you.
Dr. Baumian, you know, when your fundamentals are weak, your exchange rate will expose you. That time now $1 to 4 cedis. And today, 11.5. The rate of depreciation. What are we going to say? Name is $1. India, a Turkish near Medina cap. Ewo, those are the premi. And me money deposit. Not dollar, no. 6 cedis to $1. In August 2022, over $100,000. I have the evidence. Between 1,550,000 Ghana cedis, meaning the dollar was 15 cedis, 50 pesos. Where were the strategies?
The dollar, which was selling at 4.2 Ghana cedis in 2016, is today selling at about 17 Ghana cedis. Prices keep rising, businesses are collapsing. Yet the so-called economic messiah is dead silent and totally clueless about how to fix it. Vote John Dramani Mahama for president. Trustworthy, honest and reliable. Vote for change. Choose the umbrella. Vote John Dramani Mahama and the NDC.
There's nothing worse than your multi-bet missing. But nothing better than having it saved. Bet saver.
To many Ghanaians is that when these prophecies occur, because the election is a probability of either, you would always have some prophecies happen and some don't happen. When they don't happen, the prophets sometimes have an explanation.
Welcome back from the break, and still 23 days to go to the election. I told you we're going to talk about the Attorney General's representation in court and what the judges said about him. But look at this cartoon. It's a political campaign cartoon. Have a look at it.
Hello, my name is Ganaba. I am 21 years old and voting on Saturday, December 7th. And I have a few questions for former President John Mahama, who is standing again. Dr. Bawumia, as Vice President, gave Ghana the mobile interoperability we are enjoying today, but for only $4.5 million. Why did you award the same contract for $1.2 billion in 2016? Why in December 2016, after you lost the election, you gave to your brother almost all of Ghana's bauxite resources, estimated to be over $10 billion. Why did your boss, the late President Atamos, place you under investigation when you were his vice president? Why did you accept a fraud expedition bribe from a Burkina Faso contractor? When some were doing one constituency, one ambulance, you chose one small car, one big backside. And why did American, French and British police and investigators identify you as government official 1 in the $5 million Airbus searches bribery scandal involving another of your brothers? Why is it that when you were asked in a BBC interview whether you had ever taken bribes, you answered, as a human being, why have you been identified by international investigators as the NDC presidential candidate who was paid $80 million in 2016 for selling 65% of the Tema oil refinery assets to a Southern African company before you left office? The kidney files you spent millions to buy all flew away to Burkina Faso. What will happen to the Nkoko Kitinkiti you are promising this time? If you did not care about accountability when you knew you would go for a second term in 2016, how much more now when there will be no second term after 2028? Character matters. Integrity matters. Do not vote for a leader who, when he had his chance, he blew it.
On December 7, let's vote number 1. Let's vote for Dr. Bawumia. Estroho.
As 20 minutes to the top of the 10 o'clock, and we're going to get very political very soon. But the constitutional cases in Ghana's political legal history will see that the Attorney General always has a big role to play in it. In Rosemary Kwam versus Kwame P.N.M., the Attorney General had not actually been sued, but the court directed that the Attorney General be brought into the matter as long as there is a matter of constitutional interpretation. So since then, the nominal figure of the Attorney General has been very important in constitutional matters, and the way in which the Attorney General discharges his obligations under these circumstances is important. In this particular matter, the matter of Afenyomakin versus Alban Sumanu Kingsford Bagbin, the Attorney General was sued as his nominal figure in constitutional interpretation, matters that raise constitutional interpretation. And so the courts usually will say something about the conduct of the Attorney General, the role of that, what the Attorney General said, and all of that. In this particular case, Justice Darko Asare, concluding his remarks after delivering his judgment, said, fortifying the above interpretation is the ordinary plain meaning ascribed to the word parliament, appearing in the text, which, as ably contended by the learned Attorney General, can only refer to nothing beyond a session of parliament duly convened after holding of a general election or recalled by the president during a state of emergency, and continuing until it is dissolved in accordance with Article 112 and 113 of the Constitution. Now, Justice Darko Asare is praising the Attorney General's direction or advocacy before the court, where he told the court that the purposive approach of interpretation must be put on the use of the word parliament. And that's the point I was making earlier, that there's one side that thinks that the use of the word parliament must mean the parliament in perpetuity of the lifespan of the Constitution. And others think that if you apply the purposive approach to the use of the word parliament, you will understand that the framers of the Constitution were referring to a session of parliament or parliament as called by the president, continuing until the dissolution, so that a parliament of January 6 to January 6, 4 years hence. Now, Justice Darko Asare is praising the Attorney General for bringing this very strongly in his application, in his documents before the court, where he said the Attorney General told them that a session of parliament duly convened, that the word parliament must be understood to be a session of parliament duly convened after the holding of a general election. Because it is so, because every member of parliament ceases to be a member of parliament when the parliament is dissolved. The entire parliament ceases to exist in favor of another parliament, and that happens every 4 years. So a reference to parliament in the Constitution cannot be the parliament in perpetuity, because the speaker changes every 4 years. It can be the same individual, but the nominal speaker has changed, technically, isn't it? Okay, there was another judge who also talked about the Attorney General, Amadou Tanko, on the minority side. Amadou Tanko actually we wrote majority opinion here, majority opinion, but Amadou Tanko was on the minority side. And he said, quite strangely, even though the learned Attorney General did not fault the procedure by which the plaintiff invoked the jurisdiction of this court, in the memorandum of issues filed by the Office of the Learned Attorney General, the question has featured
as the first and primary issue. I must place on record, the judge says, my admiration for the candor demonstrated by the Attorney General in this respect. Having said that, he says, it must be emphasized that the said issue could have been raised by this court so motu, even if neither of the parties had settled same for determination in their memorandum. Okay, let me just break this down. Justice Tanko is saying that the Attorney General, he praised the Attorney General for his candor, but adds that the matter of jurisdiction is so important that even if the parties had not raised it, the court could have raised it. Amadou Tanko suggests elsewhere in the ruling that the Attorney General was not concerned about the matter of the jurisdiction. But talking to the people at the Office of the Attorney General today, they were quite surprised about this one, because they said, and it's in the video from the court, that the first 3 minutes of the Attorney General's advocacy on Tuesday was about jurisdiction, that he set out in the court, indicating to the court that because he had very little time, he had 3 issues set out, the jurisdiction and 2 others, that he would deal with the 2 others and leave jurisdiction. And on jurisdiction, he associates himself with the documents is presented before the court. The report further that Justice Tanko reminded him that the panel that he was speaking to was a different panel from the Tuesday panel, because the Tuesday panel was 5 and now it's 7, including Justice Tanko and Justice Lovelace Johnson. And according to the video and from what the people at Attorney General are saying, upon Justice Tanko saying that, the Attorney General actually proceeded to argue the jurisdiction before him. They said they were therefore quite surprised that Justice Tanko seems to suggest that the Attorney General did not deal with the jurisdiction issue because he felt that it had either already been dealt with or that it wasn't necessary. They said no, they didn't think it had already been dealt with. They didn't think it was not necessary. It was a big part of their program, and the record will show that they actually argued it before Justice Tanko on the matter of jurisdiction. So that's we wait to see how that pans out. We don't know whether the people at the Attorney General, sometimes the Attorney General can respond to the judgments by issuing a statement that I agree with the judgment and so and so and so. So all in all, Godfrey Debo Adame comes out with a lot of praise from the judge of the lead majority opinion. Dakwa Asare praises him. The lead minority opinion, Justice Tanko also praises his candor. Congratulations, Leonard Attorney General. Article 2 of the Constitution, which we remind us, says a person who alleges that an enactment or anything contained in or done under the authority of any act or enactment, omission, blah, 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 may go to the Supreme Court for a declaration to that effect. That's very, very important, that anybody in Ghana who feels that somebody has done something wrong or he wants an interpretation of the Constitution may go to the Supreme Court for that. And this is the issue of the contention of the matter. It's 15 minutes to the top of the hour. Let's get straight to politics right now. And after that, we'll show you one small documentary. Both Dr. Bawumia and President Mahama are still in the Central Region, and the former President John Dramani Mahama and Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia, the Vice President, are still out there. Okay, so let's look at the political situation again, Central Region. I don't know whether the other day we placed Greater Accra Region on the social media. We should remember to do that. All right, Greater Accra Region is important. So on election night, if you're watching the television and you are picking up the numbers from radio and online, what should you look out for in Greater Accra Region to suggest what is happening? When the night begins and the results are coming, what should you look out for to see what is being painted across? Alrighty, let's get to it. In 2008, the NPP got 45% in the Greater Accra Region. The NDC got 52%. A difference of 101,000 in favor of the NDC. It was an election in which the NPP actually won the first round, and these are first round results. They actually won the first round by 100,000. So it means NPP can actually lose Greater Accra up to 45 to 52% and still lead in the total number of votes for the presidential election. And this is evidence in 2008 over here. 2008, the NPP were behind the NDC by 100,000 votes in Greater Accra, but the count showed the NPP leading by over 100,000 in the first round. And that's an election that you put down as and the NPP lost in the final analysis. 2012, NPP lost again. NPP got 46% of Greater Accra Region, a slight improvement on 2008. And NDC got 52%. The difference in votes was improved from 2008 to now 115 from 101. So when NDC is getting a difference of 115 in Greater Accra region, it is beginning to suggest that it's a good night for them, because then they'll be picking back their notes from 2012, an election in which the NDC won by 50-point-something%. 2016, when the MPP won, 52% in Greater Accra region, MPP winning it, NDC 46%, MPP winning by 116 difference, an election in which the MPP won by over 900,000 votes. In Greater Accra, they were winning by 116. That's what happened in 2016. So on election night, if results are coming in, you see Greater Accra region and you see the MPP doing significantly well in this manner, mimicking 2016, then you know there's trouble for NDC across the country. So, and then in 2020 again, when the MPP won, very interesting. MPP got 48%, and this was the first time, I believe, in the history that a candidate lost Greater Accra region and still won the presidential election by a whooping difference of 500,000. This was the first time it happened. Another record that was broken by Adodankwa Akufo-Addo is that 2020 he was defeated in Greater Accra region, but across the country he won the election. That's never happened since 1992. Anyone who won the Greater Accra region also won the national popular vote. This time, Akufo-Addo lost Greater Accra region by a difference of 73,310 and yet won the popular vote by a whopping 500,000. It suggests that the MPP can do with marginal losses in Greater Accra and still be doing very well in the presidential election. So Greater Accra is a must pick for the National Democratic Congress. If you're watching election night, you have to see that the NDC is picking Greater Accra, and the difference is at least 100,000, a little over 100,000. That way, you know that the NDC is looking good. But if the difference is below 100,000, as it was in 2020, you know that the MPP can lose Greater Accra marginally and still win the election by over 500,000. That's the story for Greater Accra. Let's go and see a Dr. Bawumia documentary, and then we'll come back. This is something you've seen already. You know my admiration for the speech Dr. Bawumia gave at UPSA back in the day when the campaign had just started. And we put this documentary together. Have a look, enjoy it. We'll come back with the text messages, and then we'll be closing down at 11 o'clock. This is Good Evening Ghana, and it's live.
flags, wave your flags, wave your flags, wave your flags, wave your flags, and give us a thunderous roar as we receive the leader, the flag bearer, the presidential candidate of the new Patriotic Party for the 2024 presidential elections, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia.
I have always seen him as a man of destiny. I have a very strong feeling he is truly the man of the moment and Ghana must accept him. So this is it. Thank you very much.
A big round of applause for His Excellency the former president, the leader, the presidential candidate of the NPP for the 2024 elections, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia.
Indeed, all my adult life, my biggest motivation is about finding solutions. Solutions that improve lives. Solutions that make public services efficient and accessible. Solutions that make society progress. Solutions that protect the public purse. Solutions that make our businesses competitive. I derive my greatest satisfaction from solving problems, and I have done so whenever I am given the opportunity, and will do more if I am given the mandate to do so. We must apply the same mindset of beating the world in robotics, sing-a-thons, and cook-a-thons to every sphere of economic.
Prophetically, I told him, carry on like that and you'll go far.
Let's take the final round of text messages. Who should I start with? Antoinette? Okay, Antoinette, you first.
So, Island Bongo says, I think the speaker should stand firm, like he said during the press conference, to protect our constitution and rule of law, and also to safeguard our democracy. The Supreme Court is just aiding political fraud, so all MPs can pretend to be who they are not in Parliament. We are told 70% of the law is common sense, but this interpretation, he says, is devoid of common sense. We have Richard, who seems to be an NPP proponent. He says, we are ready, though the NPP in Upper West region lost one of their grassroots energetic member by name Idrisu Muslim. May you so rest in peace. Now, Kwame Maestro is alleging that the 2020 elections were rigged, which is why the EC couldn't have real results declared. According to him, she declared the 2020 elections 3 times, which has never happened before. And lastly, General L. Coleman says it's actually very unfortunate when some Ghanaians resort to insulting and opposing the judiciary instead of understanding the constitution. This behavior, he says, undermines the rule of law and the principles of democracy, and media must not give platform for such behaviors.
Alright, so this was from Junior Akbar. He says, I strongly believe that you don't even need any pastor or malam to tell you that the DMB is going to win. Our former president, and what can he do for Ghana that he couldn't have done during his time when he was president? We're not going to waste any more time in Ghana. We don't want him ever again, and we know it is possible. This one is from Neokwe. He says, it's I'm saddened after watching and listening to Abeku Santana saying it is not possible for Ghana to have a streaming platform because Nigeria has not been able to do it. Nigeria is considered as the country with the largest economy in Africa. Do they have mobile interoperativity? This one is also from Oscar. He says, please, is there a way that I can get access to the cartoon adverts? Oscar, I'm sure to be on our socials, so you can download it. Lastly, from Master Planner Ghana, he says, on election night, the 2024 elections is a lifetime changing opportunity. Please, with all due respect, let us vote wisely by voting for Dr. Bawumia. He has great plans to move Ghana forward as president. Vote number 1 on the ballot paper. All right, Patty.
All right, so General EO comment says, take it or leave it, election 2024 is between DMB and JDM. Let's forget about our party affiliations and let's be truthful to ourselves in comparing the two candidates as vice president. It's obvious that DMB has proven track records and it's possible. Master Planner Junior says, on election night, the 2024 election is a lifetime changing opportunity. Please, with due respect, let us vote wisely for Dr. Bawumia. He has great plans to move Ghana forward as president. Yao Kantata says, Ghana can only move forward through digitalization and technology. Votes for Bawumia. And lastly, Stephen Tufo says, this current Speaker of Parliament will go to the World Guinness Book of Records as the worst speaker Ghana has ever produced. Now back to you, Paul.
All right, let's watch the cartoon advert again and then we'll call it a day tonight on Good Evening Ghana. Have a look at this and enjoy your weekend.
Hello, my name is Ganaba. I am 21 years old and voting on Saturday, December 7th, and have a few questions for former President John Mahama, who is standing again. Dr. Bawumia, as Vice President, gave Ghana the mobile interoperability we are enjoying today, but for only $4.5 million. Why did you award the same contract for $1.2 billion in 2016? Why in December 2016, after you lost the election, you gave to your brother almost all of Ghana's bauxite resources, estimated to be over $10 billion. Why did your boss, the late President Atamos, place you under investigation when you were his vice president? Why did you accept a Ford expedition bribe from a Burkina Faso contractor? When some were doing one constituency, one ambulance, you chose one small car, one big backside. And why did American, French and British police and investigators identify you as government official 1 in the $5 million Airbus purchase bribery scandal involving another of your brothers? Why is it that when you were asked in a BBC interview whether you had ever taken bribes, you answered as a human being? Why have you been identified by international investigators as the NDC presidential candidate who was paid $80 million in 2016 for selling 65% of the Tema oil refinery assets to a Southern African company before you left office? The kidney files you spent millions to buy all flew away to Burkina Faso. What will happen to the Nkoko Kitinkiti you are promising this time? If you did not care about accountability when you knew you would go for a second term in 2016, how much more now when there will be no second term after 2028? Character matters, integrity matters. Do not vote for a leader who, when you had his chance, you blew it.
On December 7th, let's vote number 1. Let's vote for Dr. Bawumia. Estroho.
There's nothing worse than your multi-bet missing, but nothing better than having it saved. Bet Saver.
Dr. Bawumia once said in a church,
Since 2014 in India, they have a policy to only build concrete roads because it works out much cheaper. So I said, well, my bosses, and we have been discussing this as recently as last week in Parliament. And Bishop Dag, I'll let you into it. Cabinet did decide last week that we should move towards concrete roads as a country.
Where are the concrete roads? It was all lies. You trust this man at your own peril. Vote John Dramani Mahama for president. Trustworthy, honest, and reliable. Vote for change. Choose the umbrella. Vote John Dramani Mahama and the NDC.
Here's Kwame and